yeah, just before beginning, I was just looking at the Tailwarden YouTube channel just to see exactly how many community calls that we've gone through so far. And yeah, the first one was 5 months ago, so this is the 6th community call we've done. So I can't believe half a year of community calls has gone by already. Time really, really flies. And to be honest, I'm a little bit apprehensive about watching the early ones because I know that the tool itself has grown a lot, and I think yeah, just the general quality of the content that we've been putting out has also grown a lot. So so thanks a million to everyone who's joining and to everyone who's been watching and following the Komiser and the Tailwarden story so far. Half a year of community calls is not nothing, so thanks a million for that. So cool. So to get started today in this community call for March 2023, we have a few things to talk about. A small demo that we'll touch upon. We'll talk about a quick update on Tailwarden as well as Komiser. We'll also have some community updates and then up and coming events that we have. By the way, as always, if you have any questions at any point, just drop it in the chat, and I'll have a look at it before we finish. But yeah, I'll try to be brief and concise and to the point. So let's jump in. So with regards to what we shipped in March, we shipped 4 minor upgrades, and which culminates in the most active, the most up-to-date version, which is 3.0.8. We'll be shipping 3.0.9 later on today. But what we have so far includes GCP support. We've also shipped CSV exports of specific custom views. The MongoDB Atlas support is now live. A long list of supported cloud resources from a bunch of different cloud providers have also been added. Slack integration has been enabled, and you can now create Slack alerts leveraging cost and number of resources. And this Slack integration is also expanded to share weekly reports directly to the Slack channel of your choice. So let's have a quick look at what these new upgrades actually look like. So I'm going to go over to my terminal right here. So here I just want to show you, I have 2 config.toml files. So the config.toml file is what we use to add our credentials to Komiser. I have 2 of them just because in the first one, the first config.toml file, I have a bunch of different cloud resources and a bunch of different credentials. And in config 2, I just want to show you really quickly because that's where I have my credentials for GCP and for the Slack integration. So as you can see here, to add the Slack integrations, which will enable us to create alerts, we simply need to add the Slack block plus the webhook. And the webhook, we can generate it we can follow the documentation on the docs.komiser.io, which is pretty easy. You'll find it here. And I'll have to go through it here to find it exactly, but it's pretty easy to follow. You're going to go over to slack.api and you'll create the app. You'll choose where the notifications will be sent to in your Slack workspace, and the webhook will contain all of that information. So simply add it to your config.toml file and you'll be good to go. Cool. Now, talking about the latest cloud provider that we support, which is GCP, we recommend for you to use the service account method of authentication. So as you can see right here in my local directory here, I have the service account inside of a JSON file, and I'm just passing in the absolute path to the service account key path environment variable. Just a word of warning, definitely recommend using the absolute path and not the relative path, since the relative path sometimes gives issues to Komiser. It gets it misunderstands where the credential file is located. So just use the absolute file. I'm just going to quickly run this. I don't actually have any resources inside of my GCP account, but I just want to see, for you to see what it looks like, at least for you to know how to know if the integration was set up correctly. So I'm just going to type in Komiser start, but I want to make sure that I'm passing in the config2.toml file. So let me just pass in config2.toml. Cool. So let's start this. So as you can see here, the fetching process was successful. It understands that we're authenticating to GCP. There's a sandbox, but at the moment we only have two supported resources, which is the compute engine and the bucket resource, and I don't have any of those there. So if we go over to localhost 3000, you'll be able to see that I have some resources from other runs. But if I go over to the cloud providers here, I don't actually have an instance of GCP. Now that doesn't mean that the integration isn't working. It just means that since there was no fetched resources, it doesn't show up here. But you should be okay if you see that this fetching process ran without any errors. Okay, cool. Having said that, let's quit this process, and we're going to run the other config.toml file, which has a bunch of other credentials to cloud providers where I do actually have some resources. Cool. So I'm just going to pass in Komiser start, and Komiser start is just going to pick up the default config.toml file. And as you can see, I have many more resources from a bunch of different cloud providers right here. Cool, that looks like it's working. Let me just do a quick refresh here. Nice. So as you can see, we have a bunch of different resources in at least 6 cloud accounts. Let me go over to the cloud inventory. So I want to showcase the Slack integration and the CSV export and show you when and in what use case this might be useful for you. So I'm just thinking, in previous organizations where I've worked, it's been necessary to generate a report on a monthly or at least on a regular cadence, especially of the resources that incur cost. In my case, in my working case right here, the resources that cost the most amount of money and that take the biggest amount out of our personal budget at Tailwarden is AWS, because that's the cloud provider that we mainly build on. So let's go ahead and create a custom view that reflects that. So I'm just going to go over to the cloud provider and I'm going to specify AWS. I want to weed out all of the resources from this custom view that don't incur cost, because in terms of cost reporting, I just want to be able to get as clear and as a concise view of what I should really be worried about in terms of cost. When in terms of security, that's another deal. But so let's filter down through cost, and I'm gonna filter anything that's greater than $1 is going to show up here. So it turns out that I only have 24 resources that actually incur cost. Cool. So I'm just going to save this as a view. AWS resources that incur cost. I'm sure there's so many better names that we could use. And okay, so here we have the custom view. What we can do now is we can add alerts against this custom view. We can do it by clicking right here, or you can click down right here and set up your alert. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see here, we don't have any alerts, but since I did add the Slack block to my config.toml file, I'm good to go. I'm ready to set up the alerts. So say for example, I want to set up alerts that would allow me to know if there's a sudden kind of like spike in the overall cost of my resources. Not so much the number. We could also create that, but at the moment I just want to leverage cost as a metric. So I'm going to set up maybe a tiered alerting kind of informal system like P2, P1, and P0. And with each alert, I'm going to be alerted on a higher kind of increase of cost. So let's start off. At the moment, my total cost for these 24 resources that in my environment cost money is $866. So let's go over and set the first P0. Once it goes over $1,000, I want to know. So cool. So that's P2. Okay, so priority 1. So this is something that I definitely want to know about, and this is a little bit more kind of urgent because this will probably mean that it is something that I wasn't expecting as much. So say for example, I just want to set it at $1,200. So that's P1, and P0 is something that I'm really not expecting, especially in the short term. Say for example, $1,500. Of course, these are just kind of arbitrary. I would expect you and your team to set up alerts that make sense for you. But this is just serving as an example. Cool. So these alerts have been set up now. So I don't have to do anything else. If this cost threshold is breached, I'm going to be directly alerted to the Slack channel that I've created, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty powerful. That means that I don't have to be looking at this all the time, and I can create as many alerts as I want on as many custom views as I want. So you can be very granular, filtering especially exactly what you want to see, and then you add the alert on top of that. Cool. So we're looking at a list, a breakdown of all of the resources that I have in my AWS account that are incurring cost, as we've seen. Say, for example, imagine I have two resources that they're part of kind of maybe like another department. Maybe, for example, there's like an admin department, and I don't want to really push those resources to be added to the budget of my department. Say, for example. I'm on the DevOps team, and these two resources right here, these two EC2 instances, belong to the backend or the SRE team. I can go ahead and just hide from this view. And now those two resources are not going to be computed in this to this cost. And now if I download the CSV, they will also not be included. So let's just download the CSV. The reason why we might want to do this is that maybe not every single person, maybe not every single stakeholder that actually cares about the cost that's being incurred in your environment actually has access or even wants access to Komiser. But at least you as a DevOps engineer or as a cloud engineer, you're going to be able to use it and to generate these CSV files that can maybe be useful for other stakeholders to be able to use and to manipulate. I don't know, and maybe they're more used to using Excel, or maybe they want to put it into, maybe they want to use SQL to query this. So just so you know that is also available right here by downloading specifically on the custom view or right here down here on this in the download CSV button. Okay, so that's mainly what's going on with the latest updates. Okay, cool. Let's move on to. By the way, if there's any questions thus far, please please let me know. But if not, we can move right on. So a lot of resources have been added, and it's kind of hard to go through all of them here. But a lot of the resources that are being added, some of them are by us, the Tailwarden team, but the huge majority are from open source contributors, some of whom are right here, and we just want to thank you for that. Just so you know, the work excuse me, the work is never done, and you can see here that there's still 188 issues. I have recently added a bunch of issues of resources that need to be added for GCP. So whoever wants to pick them up, we encourage you to do so. We really appreciate it, and it's work that's very, very important to make Komiser as quickly as possible, as round and as complete as possible. So thanks a million to anyone who takes the time to contribute. Cool. So up until now, the majority of these community calls has revolved around Komiser. And I just wanted to take this chance to mention some work that has been picking up as of late as our internal Tailwarden team grows. We have a new backend developer called Ennis. We also have a product designer called Johan who's coming on Monday. So our velocity is growing. So we are of course continuing to put a lot of effort into Komiser, but we've started revamping some of the open-ended issues that we had on the Tailwarden platform, which is the cloud version of Komiser, if you will. And as you can see here, the last week version 2.0.1 was shipped, in which you have a brand new onboarding workflow, which makes it really, really easy to add your credentials and really easy for Tailwarden to fetch all of your resources. For anyone that might have any doubts, Tailwarden offers many of the features that Komiser does, but Tailwarden will be always a little bit more vast in the features that it offers. It'll always focus the same as Komiser on cloud optimization and on transparency, but it will also branch out into features regarding security, compliance, and things like that. So, of course, at the moment, it's still free for you to try out. We're really keen to get as many eyes on Tailwarden to get your feedback to see if it's something that you find useful. So please feel free to open up your free account, check out the new onboarding workflow, and we'll be very keen to hear your feedback. Cool. So moving on to some community updates. Last week was really cool because we celebrated our first ever Wardens Assembly. So this was a virtual workshop that happened right here on the Discord server. This is something that we've been wanting to do more. Projects or workshops and events that don't necessarily revolve around a product or talking about feature releases, but just something that helps us all grow and all learn, which is why we're here, right? We're all here for learning and for growing as professionals. So just a big thanks to Mohammed for leading the first workshop, which was around building a gym app, and which connected a bunch of different puzzle pieces, if you will. So he built it in Golang using an AWS Lambda function. He used AWS SAM to using infrastructure as code to get it deployed to AWS, integrated with ChatGPT. It was a very, very fun and very, very informative workshop. And a couple of days ago, Mohammed kindly wrote up the different steps and just the flow of what would need to go into to making this and to building this app yourself. Right here, you can also, in case you weren't there, you have the recording. I'm just going to share. I've got the link right here. You're going to be able to find it on our YouTube channel or on the Tailwarden blog. But as you can see, you also have the link there. So that's for the previous workshop. In other news, next month, so not at the end of April, but we'll have the second virtual workshop at the beginning or mid-May. This is going to be a workshop that's going to be much more kind of based around DevOps topics. We're going to build a Jenkins cluster and automate a CI/CD pipeline. We're going to kind of push everyone to participate if whoever wants to in a challenge inside in the actual workshop, and that'll give you the chance to win a few prizes. But yeah, so the next workshop is about DevOps and Jenkins and CI/CD. Please, if you have any ideas of other workshops that you think might be interesting for the community to dive into and to spend time doing, please let us know. We'd love to come up with some ideas for new workshops, for new events. And speaking of new events, April is going to be the month that we start our second type of event. So not a virtual workshop, but an AMA. This is something that we're going to try and do more and more. We're going to try and invite kind of subject matter experts to the Discord server to talk about everything from cloud cost optimization, FinOps, open source, community building, and just anything that the community kind of says that you want, right? So the first AMA will take place on the 27th of April. We'll communicate this better and you'll have all the details pretty soon. But it's going to be with Bart Farrell, who's a close friend of mine, and up until very recently, he was the community developer at the Data on Kubernetes community. We'll be talking about open source communities, how to build them, how to participate in them, and how young and up and coming and hungry open source developers can find opportunities for growth and he's just a very expert speaker on anything that has to do with growing in open source through communities. Perfect. So, having said that, let's move on to the big thanks to the contributors. In this month, we've had a pretty long list of people that have contributed to Komiser, and we really, really appreciate it. Just to name a few, we have F. Papadamis, Avinesh, thanks a million, I see you're here. Pachico also helped by adding auto-scaling groups to AWS. Mahendra Bagu, Jazim Abbas, and Axit P, as well as Kola Ojo. We have some open conversations with contributors that are still working on their contributions at the moment. This is by the way, I'm just using the handles that I find on Discord. We have Ayam, we have Bavia, and Friedish. So these are people that are currently working on contributions, and we're very, very, very appreciative of that. So again, it's Friday. I don't want to take that much time out of your day. This was the main overview of what happened in this last month. As I said, the team is growing. The community is absolutely starting to flourish. We're over 400 members now, which is just incredible comparing to just a few months ago. It was a third of that. So just thanks to everybody. I don't want to take more time out of your Friday. thanks a million for joining us. We'll be here next week, and on Monday have a look at the weekly takeaways that we have, which will cover the what we ship in today's release, which is 3.0.9, and we'll also talk about what's on the cards for the following week. A lot of things that are coming down in April, a lot of events and stuff like that. So we're really excited. We hope you are too. Again, thanks a million for joining us. I don't know if there's any questions. Let me just have a quick look here at the chat. Looks like we're good on questions. Again, thanks a million for your time. I hope this was informative, and I'll see you next month. Bye-bye.